Have you ever stood up from a chair and felt just a little slower than before? Not in pain, not exactly weak, just off, as if something small inside you didn't respond the way it once did. That's how it begins. Not with a fall, not with a diagnosis, but in the quiet, ordinary moments we rarely notice. Rising from bed, climbing a step, putting on a sock. That's where leg strength starts to fade. Not in hospitals, but in the hallway. Not with drama, but with silence. Leg strength doesn't vanish overnight. It disappears while you're doing normal things. Slowly, gently, without raising its voice. And by the time we notice it's gone, we've already adjusted. We sit a little longer before getting up. We lean on the counter without thinking. We tell ourselves it's just being careful, but deep down the body knows. Deep down something is asking for help, and most of us don't hear it until it's too late. Dr. Shigeaki Hinohara, one of Japan's most respected longevity experts, once said the body is like a garden. And like any garden, if we stop tending to even a small patch, like our legs, the weeds of weakness begin to grow. They don't shout, they creep in. And one day you try to do something you've always done, get off the floor, step into the bathtub, catch your balance, and realize that part of the garden has been left alone for too long. Dr. Peter Attia, a physician focused on longevity, puts it even more clearly. Your legs are the pillars of your independence. They are not just there to walk. They help control blood sugar. They protect you from falls. They keep your nervous system sharp, your circulation flowing, your balance tuned. Lose your legs and slowly, sometimes without warning, you begin to lose your life as you knew it. Not because of age, but because no one told you what to look for. No one showed you the signs. That's what this conversation is about. Not fear, not blame, but awareness. Because before the pain comes, before the crisis comes, there are always signs. Quiet alerts, gentle reminders, signals that your legs are asking for attention, for care, for movement. Today we'll walk through 8 of those signs, some subtle, some surprising, but all important, not to scare you, but to help you listen, to help you understand what your body might already be trying to say. This isn't about age, it's about habits. It's about those invisible patterns we repeat every day that either build our strength or take it away without us noticing. You may not recognize all of these signs in yourself, but even just one is enough to begin again. One is enough to start tending the garden, to bring life back to the parts of you that quietly waited for your attention. So take a breath. Let the noise of the world fall away. This is your moment. Your legs have carried you through every season of life, through work, through grief, through joy, through long walks and quiet evenings, and they're still here, still asking, still remembering. Let's listen to them, together. You push with your arms instead of your legs. It often begins in the living room. A soft couch, a cup of tea cooling on the side table, and a simple motion. Getting up. You lean forward, press your palms into the armrest, and push. The motion feels automatic, maybe even necessary. But somewhere beneath that push is a quiet confession. The legs didn't answer the call. Over time, the legs stop carrying the full load. The glutes, those powerful muscles that once propelled you uphill or helped you lift a grandchild, begin to quiet. The thighs grow less reliable, and without knowing it, the upper body starts doing the work instead. The arms, the shoulders, even the neck, all begin to take on a task they were never meant to carry. You might not notice it right away. Maybe you rise by rocking forward once or twice. Maybe you grip the edge of a table to pull yourself up. It doesn't feel like weakness, it just feels efficient. But beneath that habit is a message. The legs are slowly stepping back, and the more they're replaced, the less they're remembered. There's a simple way to notice the change. Stand from a chair with your hands resting softly on your thighs. Not pushing, just resting. If it feels difficult, if your body leans far forward, or if you hesitate before rising, that's not just stiffness. That's a signal, not a failure. Just a sign that the roots of your independence need nourishing, because your legs were made to lift you. Your arms were made to embrace, to hold, to steady, not to compensate for what your legs have forgotten. And when the legs grow silent, the whole body begins to rearrange itself. Joints feel more strained, the back tenses, the shoulders ache, The entire system adapts to something that was never meant to be lost. But this isn't about blame. This is about remembering. The body is always listening, and even the smallest shift, the simple act of standing with intention, can reawaken what's been asleep. Your legs haven't given up on you. They're just waiting to be asked again. You avoid stairs without realizing why. Sometimes it's not what we feel that reveals the truth, but what we quietly stop doing. A staircase once climbed with ease becomes something we walk around. A few steps to the porch become a reason to take the longer, flatter route. And we tell ourselves it's just for safety, or comfort, or convenience. But deep within the body, something else may be speaking. This quiet withdrawal often goes unnoticed. It's not fear exactly. It's more like reluctance, a subtle hesitation, a decision made without words. And underneath that hesitation is often a kind of fatigue, not the kind that comes from a long day, but the kind that whispers from the legs themselves. I don't feel as steady. I don't feel as ready. The muscles most affected are the fast twitch fibers in the thighs, the ones responsible for stepping with control, adjusting to uneven ground, and reacting quickly if something shifts beneath your feet. These fibers fade faster with age if they're not used, and because their decline is so quiet, many people only notice once a misstep has already occurred. There's a way to tune into this sign. If you attempt to climb just a few stairs without holding the rail, slowly, gently, and feel your legs shaking or your breath quickening more than expected, that's the body calling your attention, not in panic, but in need. Each stair we stop climbing, each step we avoid, is like a forgotten note in a song we once knew well, a melody that held our rhythm and balance, and the less we use it, the more the silence grows. But there's another way to see those steps, not as obstacles, but as invitations. A low step at the bottom of the staircase, a pause, a gentle lift, just once or twice a day, not to prove anything, not to challenge, but to ask the legs to speak again, slowly, softly. Because every stair avoided is a muscle forgotten, and every stair remembered is a small promise. That movement, even in its simplest form, still belongs to you. You struggle to put on pants while standing. It's a quiet moment, often unnoticed. The morning light filters through the curtains and you reach for your clothes. You stand, holding your pants, and then pause. One hand rests on the bedpost or the edge of the dresser. The other lifts the fabric. But instead of stepping in with ease, your body leans, wobbles. You sit down without thinking. It feels safer, it feels normal. But there's a story hidden in that motion. What used to be effortless, balancing on one leg for just a moment, now feels uncertain. Not painful, not dramatic, just unstable. And while it may seem small, that moment reveals something deeper. The stabilizing muscles in the hips, the lower belly, the reflexes that kept you steady for decades, have begun to quiet. This subtle shift is one of the earliest signs that the body's natural balance is no longer being asked to show up. The brain starts to doubt the leg's ability to hold the weight, even for a breath. And so, it compensates. It sits down. It avoids. It protects. In clinical settings, this one act, needing to sit to dress, has been recognized as a quiet predictor. It suggests that the muscles supporting balance are softening, that the reflexes responsible for keeping you upright are no longer being trained by daily life. But this isn't just about risk. It's about confidence, the quiet kind of confidence that comes from trusting your body to carry you, even in the smallest of tasks. Because if we stop trusting one leg for a moment, the legs, in time, will stop trusting us in return. There's power in reclaiming that trust, not through force but through presence, through gentle repetition, a steady hand on the counter, a lifted foot, even for a second, a reminder to the body you still remember. You still belong to movement. A man named Charles, 74, once said that the first time he balanced again on one leg, even briefly, he felt something return, not just strength, but a sense of self. Within 3 weeks of quiet effort, he noticed he no longer feared the act of dressing while standing. What returned wasn't just ability, it was dignity, and that's what's at stake. Not just movement, but the quiet rituals of independence, the moments we don't think about until they change. But change doesn't have to mean decline. Sometimes it simply means we are being invited, once more, to pay attention. You don't notice you've stopped squatting in daily life. There was a time when the body bent with ease. To pick up a fallen spoon, to tie a shoelace, to reach a flower pot on the ground. The knees folded, the hips lowered, and the legs carried you down and back up like it was nothing. Not an exercise, just life, just movement. But then slowly, almost without noticing, the squatting stopped. It doesn't leave with a loud goodbye. It just fades. One day you stop kneeling in the garden and start reaching with tools instead. You tie your shoes by bringing your foot to a chair. You ask someone else to pick up what fell, and you tell yourself it's just convenience, that it's normal, that it's age. But deep inside, the body remembers what it used to do and misses it. The thighs grow tight, the hips stiffen, the knees start to whisper complaints, not because they're overused, but because they're being left behind. A joint that doesn't bend begins to forget how, and a muscle that isn't asked starts to fade into silence. In many parts of the world, that silence never arrives. In Okinawa, in small villages with dirt roads and ocean winds, elders in their 80s still squat to eat, to rest, to live. It's not exercise, it's just how life is shaped. They don't avoid the ground, they move with it. And because of that, their bodies stay open, strong, responsive. When squatting leaves our lives, so does a kind of freedom. Not just the physical ability to lower and rise, but the sense that your body still works in full harmony, that you can still meet the ground without fear, that you can still trust your knees, your thighs, your center, and yet it doesn't take much to remember, to wake that part of you again. Sometimes it starts with a small ritual, bending the knees while brushing your teeth, letting the thighs carry a little more weight, staying for just a moment longer than feels natural. Not to strain, just to invite. Because in the end, this isn't about doing squats for strength. It's about preserving a shape of life, a way of moving that says, I am still here. I am still whole. I still trust my legs to bring me down and bring me back. And when that trust returns, something else returns with it. Dignity, presence, and the quiet joy of meeting the earth with grace. What if strength doesn't leave us all at once, but retreats gently, step by step, as we turn away from the movements that once defined our days? Not with drama, not with announcement, but slowly, quietly, while we're looking in another direction, while we're grieving, while we're distracted, while we're trying our best to simply make it through. It often begins with something simple, a change so small it slips past notice. A moment when you reach for the arm of the chair, not because you're tired, but because it feels easier. A decision to take the elevator even if it's just one floor. A choice to sit and dress rather than stand, because it's quicker, safer, less uncertain. Each of these moments, alone, feels reasonable, understandable, but over time they become a pattern, a rhythm the body learns. And with every movement avoided, the legs receive a message. You're no longer needed. And yet, even in silence, the body remembers what it once did. The thighs that once climbed hills, the feet that walked across cold kitchen tiles before sunrise, the knees that bent in gardens, beside grandchildren, near gravestones, the muscles that carried grief, joy, fatigue, laughter. They haven't forgotten. They're waiting. There is a loneliness to losing strength that people rarely speak about. Not just the physical kind, but the kind that comes from realizing you no longer feel confident in your own body, that the floor feels farther away, that stairs bring hesitation, that you question whether you can still do something simple, like stand in the shower or get up from the ground without help. It's not just ability that slips away. It's dignity. It's freedom. It's that quiet sense of, I am still able, but you are. Even now, the human body, especially as it ages, is not a machine that breaks. It is more like the earth itself. It rests, it remembers, and when given warmth, attention, rhythm, it begins to respond. Slowly, gently, without force. Perhaps no one told you what to look for. Perhaps no one ever said, the legs are the keepers of your independence. That the muscles in your thighs, your hips, your calves, are not just for walking, but for balance, metabolism, blood sugar control, and even cognitive health. That they are your anchor to the floor, your stabilizer in the storm, your quiet protection from what can change so quickly with a single fall. And it's not weakness that brings the danger, it's forgetting to listen. Most people don't wait for the body to fail. They simply adjust. They adapt without realizing they're adapting. They give away small pieces of strength, thinking it's part of getting older. They hand over tasks to chairs, to rails, to routines of stillness, believing this is just how it goes. And sometimes it's not even about belief. Sometimes it's just exhaustion, loss, the heaviness that comes after caregiving, after illness, after losing someone who made the world feel stable. In those seasons, movement isn't a priority. Survival is. But slowly, gently, something begins to call. Maybe it's a difficult morning. Maybe it's watching someone else your age walk with confidence. Maybe it's nothing at all, just a quiet longing to feel like yourself again. And this longing doesn't demand perfection. It doesn't need youth. It only needs a small yes, a small conversation between you and your legs. A small moment where you place your foot firmly on the floor and say, I still want this. Not for anyone else. Not to chase the past. But because there is life that can only be lived while standing on your own 2 feet. This isn't about exercise. It isn't about routines or goals or being strong again. It's about relationship. A relationship with your body, forged over decades. Through illness and healing. Through dancing and resting, through every bruise and scar and walk around the block. Your legs have always been there. Even now, as they grow quieter, they are still offering you something. A chance to listen. A chance to rebuild what was never truly lost, only hidden. And if you feel afraid, uncertain, or discouraged, know this: you are not alone. Across the world, thousands of people in their 60s, 70s, 80s, even 90s are asking the same questions, wondering if it's too late, wondering if that moment to act has passed. But it hasn't. The moment is here. The moment is this breath, this choice, this recognition that you still belong to movement, to presence, to strength. Dr. Hinohara reminded us that movement is not just a physical act. It is a way of preserving humanity. That to keep walking, to keep using the body, is to stay awake to the world. Not because we must, but because the body thrives on being needed. And Dr. Atia reminds us that our legs are not accessories, they are infrastructure. They are the difference between watching life from a chair and meeting it on your feet, between being carried and carrying yourself. So if the stairs feel hard, if standing from the couch feels different, if your legs hesitate before they lift you, listen, not with fear, but with care. These are the signs that matter. These are the moments that call for tenderness, not shame. And if there is pain, let it be met with patience. If there is stiffness, let it be met with breath. You are still here, and your legs, though tired, though maybe quiet, are still yours, still capable of remembering, still waiting for the warmth of attention, still connected to every place you've been and every place you still want to go. So ask them, not with force, not with guilt, but with kindness. Ask them gently, daily, purposefully, and they will return the favor.